What if I told you that some of the world's most famous stars didn't die from illness, old age, or even major disasters, but from the most ordinary things imaginable? A cigarette, a shower door, a lamp. In the blink of an eye, lives filled with fame, talent, and success came to shocking ends. Tonight, we uncover bizarre celebrity deaths that remind us of one haunting truth: destiny can change in a single unexpected moment. Number 1. Joe Spinell. Joe Spinell built a career playing some of cinema's toughest and most memorable characters. From The Godfather and Rocky to Taxi Driver, he became a familiar face in Hollywood, often portraying men who could survive almost anything life threw at them. But in reality, his final battle would be fought alone and against something far more ordinary than anyone could imagine. On January 13, 1989, Spinell was at his apartment when a simple accident changed everything. While taking a shower, he reportedly slipped in the bathtub and crashed into the glass shower door. The impact shattered the glass, leaving him with a severe wound and heavy bleeding. At that moment, help may have still been within reach. But instead of seeking immediate medical attention, Spinell returned to his living room and lay down on the couch. Whether he underestimated the severity of the injury or believed he would recover on his own remains unknown. He never got the chance. As the hours passed, the blood loss became fatal. By the time he was found, it was too late. He was 52 years old. Number 2. Glenn Shaddix. To movie fans around the world, Glenn Shaddix was unforgettable. With his distinctive voice, eccentric charm, and larger-than-life presence, he became best known for playing Otho in Tim Burton's cult classic, Beetlejuice. Whether on screen or behind a microphone, Shaddix had a unique ability to leave a lasting impression. But on September 7, 2010, his remarkable life came to an abrupt and heartbreaking end. There was no high-speed chase, no dangerous stunt, and no dramatic disaster. Instead, the tragedy unfolded in one of the most familiar places imaginable, his own kitchen. According to his sister, Susan Gagné Shaddix accidentally tripped and fell inside his condominium. During the fall, he struck his head against the kitchen sink with devastating force. The impact caused severe blunt force trauma injuries from which he would never recover. He was 58 years old. What makes Glenn Shaddix's death so unsettling is how ordinary the circumstances were. A kitchen is a place associated with comfort, routine, and safety. Yet in a matter of seconds, an everyday moment became a life-ending accident. Number 3. Jack Cassidy. Jack Cassidy was the kind of man who seemed larger than life. A respected actor, singer, and stage director, he spent decades captivating audiences with his charisma and talent. He was admired by millions and would later be remembered as the father of teen idols David and Sean Cassidy. From the outside, his life looked like a Hollywood success story. But in the early hours of December 12, 1976, that story came to a devastating end. There was no scandal, no violent crime, and no terminal illness. Instead, the cause was something painfully ordinary: a single cigarette. After lighting a cigarette while relaxing at home, Cassidy reportedly fell asleep on his couch. Sometime during the night, the cigarette slipped from his hand and ignited the furniture. As flames spread through the room, the fire quickly grew out of control. By the time help arrived, it was too late. The damage was so severe that authorities had to identify him through dental records. It's a tragedy that feels almost impossible to comprehend. A man who survived the pressures of fame and the uncertainties of show business was ultimately brought down by a routine moment most people never think twice about. Number 4. Bo Diaz. Professional athletes spend their lives facing danger on the field, pushing their bodies to the limit under the pressure of competition. But for former Major League Baseball All-Star Bo Diaz, the greatest threat wasn't waiting inside a stadium. It was sitting quietly on the roof of his own home. Diaz built a respected career as a catcher, earning recognition for his toughness, leadership, and determination. Fans knew him as a competitor who could handle the speed and intensity of professional baseball. After years in the spotlight, he had stepped away from the game and was enjoying life with his family. Then, on November 23, 1990, an ordinary household chore turned into a nightmare. While adjusting a satellite dish on the roof of his home, something went horribly wrong. The heavy structure suddenly shifted and collapsed, striking him with devastating force. The dish crushed his head and neck, leaving no chance for survival. He was just 37 years old. Number 5. Bob Saget. For millions of Americans, Bob Saget felt like family. As the beloved father figure Danny Tanner on Full House, he became one of television's most recognizable faces. Behind the laughter, the jokes, and decades of success, he built a career that seemed destined to endure for years to come. But on January 9, 2022, the entertainment world was stunned by news no one expected. While staying at a hotel in Florida during a comedy tour, Saget was found dead in his room. At first, the circumstances seemed mysterious. There were no signs of foul play, no drugs, and no obvious explanation. The truth that later emerged was both simple and heartbreaking. Investigators concluded that Saget had suffered a severe blow to the back of his head, most likely after accidentally falling backward and striking a bedside table. Believing the injury wasn't serious, he apparently went to sleep and never woke up. He was 65 years old. Number 6. Barbara Weldons. The stage was where Barbara Weldons felt most alive. With her soulful voice, poetic lyrics, and magnetic presence, the French singer-songwriter was quickly becoming one of the most promising new talents in music. In 2017, she had just released her debut album and was beginning to capture the attention of audiences across France. Everything seemed to be moving in the right direction. Then came the night of July 19, 2017. Under the lights of a summer music festival in southwestern France, Weldons stepped onto the stage and did what she loved most: perform. The crowd watched as she sang, unaware they were witnessing the final moments of her life. Shortly before midnight, she suddenly collapsed. At first, many believed it was a medical emergency brought on by exhaustion. But the truth was far more shocking. An autopsy later revealed that Barbara Weldons had been electrocuted during the performance. Known for performing barefoot, she had reportedly come into contact with defective electrical equipment on stage. She was only 35 years old. Number 7. Terry Kath. Terry Kath wasn't just a musician, he was the soul of the legendary rock band, Chicago. Admired for his extraordinary guitar skills, powerful vocals, and creative talent, many fellow musicians considered him one of the most gifted performers of his generation. His future seemed limitless. But on January 23, 1978, a moment of misplaced confidence brought that future to an abrupt end. Friends knew Kath had developed a fascination with firearms. At a gathering held at the home of a band technician, he began handling several guns, casually demonstrating what he believed was their harmless condition. Witnesses later recalled that he repeatedly reassured those around him that everything was under control. At one point, he picked up a pistol and attempted to prove it was unloaded. Relaxed and unconcerned, he reportedly joked with those nearby, insisting there was nothing to fear. Then, in a single, irreversible moment, he pulled the trigger. The gun discharged instantly. Kath died at the scene. He was only 31 years old, just days away from his 32nd birthday. Number 8. Claude François. Claude François was more than just a singer. In France, he was a cultural phenomenon. With millions of records sold, electrifying stage performances, and a career built on charisma and perfectionism, he became one of the biggest stars of his era. To fans, he seemed unstoppable, a man whose energy could light up any room. Ironically, it was a light fixture that would bring his life to a tragic end. On March 11, 1978, François returned to his Paris apartment after a busy day of work and recording. Seeking a moment of relaxation, he settled into a bath. It should have been an ordinary evening, the kind that follows countless successful days in a celebrity's life. Then he noticed something. A wall-mounted light fixture above him appeared crooked. For a man known for his attention to detail, it was a small imperfection that demanded correction. Rising from the bathtub, he reached toward the fixture to straighten it. In an instant, disaster struck. The electrical current surged through his body, electrocuting him on the spot. He was only 39 years old. Number 9. Charles McGraw. Charles McGraw spent more than 3 decades building a reputation as one of Hollywood's most recognizable tough guys. With his rugged appearance, commanding voice, and unforgettable screen presence, he starred alongside some of the biggest names in film, appearing in classics like The Narrow Margin and Spartacus. On screen, he often portrayed men who seemed impossible to defeat. But on July 29, 1980, fate had a very different ending in mind. At his home in Studio City, California, McGraw was going through what should have been an ordinary day. There were no signs of danger, no looming threats, and no reason to believe tragedy was just moments away. Then, in the privacy of his bathroom, disaster struck. McGraw reportedly slipped and fell into a glass shower door. The impact shattered the glass, sending sharp fragments flying. One of those shards inflicted a devastating wound on his arm, severing the brachial artery, a major blood vessel responsible for carrying blood throughout the arm. What followed happened with terrifying speed. Despite the injury occurring inside his own home, the blood loss was so severe that he died before emergency responders could reach him. He was 66 years old. Number 10. Danny Cedrone. For most musicians, recording a hit song is the moment they dream about their entire lives. For guitarist Danny Cedrone, that dream finally became reality in June 1954, when he recorded the unforgettable guitar solo for Rock Around the Clock with Bill Haley and his Comets, a song that would soon ignite the rock and roll revolution and become one of the best-selling records in history. But Danny Cedrone would never live long enough to see it happen. Just days after the recording session, while the song was still unknown to the world, tragedy struck. On June 17, 1954, only 10 days after helping create what would become a cultural phenomenon, Cedrone suffered a devastating accident at home. According to reports, he tripped and fell down a staircase. The fall was catastrophic, breaking his neck and ending his life almost instantly. He was just 33 years old, only 3 days away from his 34th birthday. Number 11. Gaspard Ulliel. Gaspard Ulliel was one of the brightest stars of French cinema. Handsome, talented, and admired for his emotional depth on screen, he earned international recognition through films such as Hannibal Rising and became a symbol of a new generation of actors destined for lasting success. At just 37 years old, his career was still ascending. Then on January 19th, 2022, everything changed in an instant. It was supposed to be a day of leisure at the La Rosière ski resort in the French Alps. Surrounded by breathtaking mountain scenery, Ulliel was enjoying a sport loved by millions around the world. There was no film set, no dangerous stunt, and no extraordinary risk. But fate rarely asks for permission. While descending a ski run, Ulliel collided with another skier. The impact sent both individuals crashing to the ground. Remarkably, the other skier escaped without serious injuries. Ulliel was not as fortunate. He suffered severe head trauma and was airlifted to a nearby hospital. Despite the efforts of medical teams, he succumbed to his injuries the following day. He was only 37 years old. For an actor whose future seemed filled with possibility, the journey ended not beneath the bright lights of a movie premiere, but on a quiet, snowy slope. Number 12. Victor Sen-Yung. For years, Victor Sen-Yung brought warmth and familiarity to television audiences across America. Best known for playing Hop Sing on the hit Western series Bonanza, he became a beloved character whose presence helped define one of television's most successful shows. To fans, he seemed destined to enjoy a peaceful life long after the cameras stopped rolling. But in 1980, his story ended in a way that no one could have predicted. Away from Hollywood, Victor enjoyed a quieter passion. He operated a small, mail-order pottery business from his home, crafting and firing ceramic pieces in a kiln. It was a hobby that reflected patience, creativity, and a desire for a life beyond the spotlight. Then tragedy struck. While working at his North Hollywood residence, a gas leak reportedly developed during the pottery firing process. Unlike fire or explosions, natural gas often arrives without warning, silent, invisible, and deadly. Unaware of the danger surrounding him, Victor was overcome by the toxic fumes. By the time he was discovered, it was too late. He was 65 years old. Number 13. Ola Brunkert. Behind every legendary band, there are often musicians whose names remain unknown to millions, yet whose talent helps create some of the most iconic songs in history. Ola Brunkert was one of those musicians. As the drummer for ABBA's backing band during their golden years, Brunkert helped provide the heartbeat behind timeless classics like Dancing Queen Mamma Mia and Waterloo. Though he rarely stood in the spotlight, his rhythm helped define the soundtrack of a generation. But on a quiet day in 2008, his life ended in a tragedy as shocking as it was bizarre. At his home in Spain, Brunkert was reportedly walking toward the dining room when he accidentally tripped and fell. In an instant, he crashed into a glass door. The impact shattered the glass, and a large shard inflicted a devastating wound to his neck. Despite the severity of the injury, Brunkert remained conscious. In a desperate attempt to save himself, he wrapped a towel around his neck and left the house hoping to find help. But he never made it. Moments later, he collapsed in his garden and died from blood loss. He was 61 years old. Number 14. Gregory Plitt. Gregory Plitt built his reputation on discipline, strength, and fearlessness. As a successful fitness model, actor, and motivational figure, he inspired countless people to push beyond their limits. His image was built around courage, confidence, and the belief that obstacles were meant to be conquered. But on January 17th, 2015, that mindset would lead to a tragic ending. At a train station in Burbank, California, Plitt was filming a promotional video for an energy drink. The concept was simple: create a dramatic scene that captured intensity and excitement. But somewhere between performance and reality, the situation became dangerously unpredictable. As cameras rolled, Plitt reportedly attempted to outrun an approaching train and cross the tracks. For a brief moment, it may have seemed possible, but trains move faster than they appear, and mistakes leave little room for correction. Within seconds, disaster struck. The locomotive hit him with devastating force, ending his life instantly. He was only 37 years old. Number 15. Butterfly McQueen. For generations of movie lovers, Butterfly McQueen was remembered for her unforgettable role as Prissy in the classic film Gone with the Wind. Her distinctive voice, vibrant personality, and memorable performances helped secure her place in Hollywood history. Long after the golden age of cinema had passed, she remained a beloved figure whose work continued to captivate audiences. But on December 22, 1995, her remarkable story came to a tragic and unexpected end. At 84 years old, McQueen was at home when she attempted to light a kerosene lamp. It was an ordinary task, one that countless people had performed throughout their lives without incident. But this time, something went terribly wrong. The lamp malfunctioned and suddenly erupted into flames. Within seconds, her clothing caught fire. What began as a routine moment quickly turned into a desperate fight for survival. Despite receiving medical treatment, the severe burns proved too devastating. She later died from her injuries in a hospital in Augusta, Georgia. Number 16. Martha Mansfield. In the early days of Hollywood, Martha Mansfield was a rising star whose future seemed filled with promise. Known for her beauty talent and commanding presence on both stage and screen, she had already established herself as a successful actress by the time she entered the world of silent films. Her career was gaining momentum, and audiences were eager to see what came next. But fate had already written a different ending. On November 29, 1923, Mansfield was filming The Warrens of Virginia on location in San Antonio, Texas. Dressed in an elaborate Civil War-era costume made of lightweight, highly flammable fabric, she had just completed her scenes and was walking toward her car to rest. Then, in a matter of seconds, disaster erupted. According to reports, a carelessly discarded match was tossed nearby. The tiny flame ignited her costume almost instantly. Within moments, the fire spread rapidly across the delicate fabric, engulfing her in flames before anyone could fully react. Despite desperate efforts to save her, Mansfield suffered catastrophic burns. She died the following day from her injuries. She was only 24 years old. Number 17. Steve Peregrine Took. Steve Peregrine Took was a musician who embodied the spirit of the late 1960s. As a founding member of Tyrannosaurus Rex alongside Mark Bolan, he helped create a unique blend of folk and psychedelic rock that captivated audiences and laid the foundation for one of Britain's most influential musical movements. He lived a life surrounded by creativity, music, and artistic freedom. Yet his final moments would be remembered for something almost impossible to imagine. On October 27, 1980, Steve Took was found dead at the age of 31. Unlike many musicians whose lives ended through accidents, illness, or the excesses often associated with rock and roll culture, Took's death resulted from an extraordinarily unusual circumstance. According to reports, he accidentally asphyxiated after inhaling a cocktail cherry, a simple garnish, a small object most people would barely notice in a drink. Yet somehow it became the cause of a fatal airway obstruction that ended his life. Number 18. Buddy Clark. In the late 1940s, Buddy Clark was one of America's most beloved singers. With his smooth voice charm and growing popularity, he had become a household name during the golden age of radio. After serving his country in World War II, he returned to entertainment and quickly rose to the top of the music industry. His future appeared brighter than ever. Then came October 1st, 1949. Earlier that day, Clark had completed a radio broadcast with the Andrews Sisters before joining several friends on a trip to attend a college football game in Northern California. It was meant to be a carefree getaway, a brief escape from the demands of fame and performance. The game ended. The group boarded a small aircraft for the flight back to Los Angeles. They never made it. According to reports, the plane eventually ran low on fuel during the return journey. As the aircraft lost altitude, the situation became increasingly desperate. Within moments, the pilot was fighting a battle that could no longer be won. The plane crashed onto Beverly Boulevard in West Los Angeles, killing those on board, including Buddy Clark. He was only 37 years old. Number 19. Payne Stewart. Payne Stewart was one of golf's most recognizable champions. Known for his signature knickerbocker outfits, fierce competitiveness, and remarkable skill, he captured the admiration of fans around the world. By 1999, he had already secured 3 major championships, including a dramatic U.S. Open victory just months before his death. He was at the peak of his career. Then, on October 25, 1999, one of the most chilling aviation tragedies in sports history unfolded. Stewart boarded a private jet in Orlando, Florida, bound for Texas. It was supposed to be a routine flight. The weather was clear, and there were no indications of trouble as the aircraft climbed into the sky. But shortly after takeoff, something catastrophic happened. The cabin suddenly lost pressure. As oxygen levels inside the aircraft dropped, those on board gradually lost consciousness. Unaware of the unfolding crisis, the jet continued flying on autopilot, drifting across the American sky with no response from the cockpit. Military fighter jets were scrambled to intercept the aircraft. What pilots witnessed was deeply unsettling, a plane flying normally, yet showing no signs of life inside. For hours, the ghostly aircraft continued its silent journey until fuel exhaustion finally brought it down, crashing into a field in South Dakota. No one survived. Stewart was 42 years old. Number 20. Halyna Hutchins, a scene that was never meant to be real. Movie sets are built on illusion. Guns fire blanks. Danger is carefully choreographed. Every risk is measured, controlled, and rehearsed. For cinematographer Halyna Hutchins, creating that illusion was part of her craft. But on October 21st, 2021, the line between fiction and reality vanished in the most tragic way imaginable. Hutchins was one of Hollywood's rising talents, a respected cinematographer whose creative vision had earned praise throughout the film industry. At just 42 years old, she was building a career filled with promise and ambition. Colleagues admired not only her talent, but also her passion for storytelling. That day, she was working on the set of the Western film Rust near Santa Fe, New Mexico. It was supposed to be another routine filming session. Cameras were being positioned, scenes were being prepared. The crew was focused on bringing a fictional story to life. Then the unthinkable happened. During preparations for a scene, a revolver being used as a prop was discharged by actor Alec Baldwin. The weapon fired a live round, striking Hutchins and critically wounding her. In an instant, the set fell into chaos. She was rushed for emergency medical treatment, but died before reaching the hospital. She was 42 years old. Number 21. John Denver. John Denver's voice became the soundtrack of a generation. With timeless hits like Take Me Home, Country Roads, Rocky Mountain High, and Annie's Song, he captured the beauty of freedom, nature, and the simple joys of life. To millions of fans, Denver represented optimism and adventure. Ironically, it was his love of adventure that led to his final journey. On October 12, 1997, Denver took to the skies in his experimental Rutan Long EZ aircraft near Monterey, California. An experienced pilot, he had flown many times before. The flight was supposed to be routine, just another afternoon doing something he loved. But high above the Pacific coastline, a small problem emerged. One of the aircraft's fuel tanks was running low. To continue the flight, Denver attempted to switch fuel tanks. According to investigators, the fuel selector valve was positioned behind the pilot's seat, forcing him to twist his body awkwardly to reach it. What happened next unfolded in seconds. As Denver turned to access the valve, the movement likely caused unintended pressure on the aircraft's controls. The plane suddenly veered off course, pitching upward before entering a loss of control from which it never recovered. Moments later, the aircraft crashed into Monterey Bay. He was 53 years old,